The housing market in Colorado Springs in 2025 has been a bit strange. Like, I literally yesterday just told a client that, hey, this is a great time to buy because September, October is when you get the most inventory, but people are wanting to sell before Christmas, so they're more incentivized to give you more concessions, lower the price, that sort of deal. So we're coming up on that time in a few months here, and we're also reaching a point where we might be hitting a buyer's market. And I said that earlier in the year because we had a little over 4 months of home inventory, and I think right now we're at 3.3, meaning like if no new homes came on the market, all the inventory, all the for sale property would be gone in 3.3 months. So once you get to 4 months, 6 months, you start approaching a buyer's market where now the buyers have all the leverage. And for some homes right now in the Colorado Springs housing market in 2025, yeah, you've got leverage as the buyer. The homes that are move-in ready, like the kitchen, the bathrooms have been remodeled, new trim, the yard's really nice, tasteful finishes, all that's what's going quick. That's what's going in less than 2 weeks. If you've got to remodel stuff, if there's deferred maintenance, it's going to take you 40, 60 days, and that's if you price it appropriately. And if you price it too high, there's a lot of properties that are taking price drops right now, and some of them they're still selling what they're listed for because they listed it correctly. They didn't expect the appreciation to get out of control in 2025, because it certainly has not. If you bought a house between 2020 and 2023, or actually just if you bought a house after 2020, you likely are, and you're trying to sell it now, you likely don't have enough equity. You're not going to break even. You're likely going to lose money. And it's just because after 2021, 2020, the home values, they got pushed up. That was when the market was crazy. That was when you had multiple offers all the way into even 2022. And so now the market is not that. We don't have the frenzy in Colorado Springs for our housing market. And what's funny is that client that I told that, hey, this is a great time to buy, I talked to his dad right after, and I said, this is actually a good time to sell. And he's just like, he literally just said the opposite. And I said, well, I mean, if you're going to sell this year, do it now, because this is summertime. This is when the most number of people who are looking to buy are out in the market. Once you get into September, October, and beyond, now the buyers typically have more control, and you're not going to sell for as much. Just seasonally in the year, summer is better than winter. And then I followed up with, yeah, if you can hang on to the property, rent it out, or just otherwise not sell it for a few years, I think the values are still going to be there. I mean, you got Realtor.com and other places saying that Springs in Denver and a bunch of other places are going to be going up in value. And the Springs in Denver are both two cities in Colorado that are poised to do that. So like Realtor.com says in the next 10 years, the average cost of a home, or the average sale price of a home in Colorado Springs, will be at $1 million. Like, that's crazy to me. I remember when a really nice house here was $500,000 for like a 5,000 square foot house. I'm thinking of a specific one out in Peyton that I sold, but I remember just, this is huge, and it's got a second kitchen on the lower level with a walkout. This is $500K. I thought that was so much. And now double that? Are you kidding me? Like, that same house, like 7 or 8 now. But I mean, crazy. And I know everybody talks about, oh, well, the housing market the home prices have to come down at some point. Like, really? Do they? Like 2008, yeah, they came down, but guess what? The housing prices going down at that point was directly due to farting around with the housing market. That's what caused that. So right now we just have interest rates that are staying at 6.5%, 7%, and you got political unrest, I guess is what we're calling it, where there's so many people, so many would-be buyers who are saying, I'm gonna wait until things get a little bit more stable politically before I decide if I'm gonna buy a house right now. And I've got clients that are buying houses right now anyway, because it's like, live your life. Like, yes, stuff is going on around you, but if this is the time of your life that makes sense for you to buy a house, yeah, that is what it is. But Yeah, I agree. Like, yeah, there's a lot of political turmoil going on, and half the country the country seems to be divided on politics right now. And without, here, I'm walking my 2-year-old daughter. We're taking a little walk because she wanted to get out of the house, and I'm like, okay, well, I I can make a quick video because my son has been asked me, have you made any YouTube videos lately? Because he's obsessed with YouTube people. I said no. Like the last long format video I made was back in December, and I haven't talked about the housing market. I mean, I've done shorts, but not a big long video. And I'm like, okay, this is the perfect time to do it. It's going to be on the fly. I don't have my microphone, but whatever. It's, this is what you came here for, is to learn about this stuff. So the housing market in Colorado Springs is generally insulated from these types of things. I mean, 2008, yeah, prices went down here too. But compared to other housing markets, Colorado Springs is more resilient to national things that are going on, or some markets, other states, it's just they reach a cap on what people are willing to spend to move there. But with Colorado Springs, it's different because you have a lot of military moving here. You got PCS moves, you've got several military installations here, you've got the mountains, and you've got dog-friendly state, dry climate, great for a lot of health related issues, for some health related issues. Hiking galore, and it's family friendly. Like, it's an in-demand place to live. They're building that 27-story apartment tower that got approved in downtown. They're expecting luxury and higher income people to be moving here because that's all who can afford it now. The average home price being 500-ish K, 450K. Yeah, you're gonna need to make at least $150,000 a year household to be able to afford something here. And if you can't do that, sorry, but that's the way that the market is here now. So it is appealing to people who have the 3-figure incomes, who've got the better jobs. And that's typically who is moving here, because otherwise, if you want to get a house cheaply, buy something for more cheaply here, this goes for all markets in the nation, is the new construction homes, because they're doing these crazy incentives, like up to $50,000 in incentives to buy down the price of your home, or the interest rate, or closing costs, all that, because they're trying to get people in quick before the tariffs and before construction materials get super expensive, and they're not likely going to, their profit's going to go down because the number of people who can buy those homes is going to go way down. So they spend a bunch of money with their preferred lender to buy down, do some permanent buy down rates, and they'll buy a certain number of those and then advertise that with the new construction. So that's how you're getting the good rate with a lower interest rate. Great, take it. The other option is assumable loans. So you have people who, when they bought their house, they got it at 2.5% to 5% interest rate, or they refinanced later when the rates went down. So now that they're looking to sell, they say you've got a $450,000 house, and they paid $350,000 for it back in 2021, let's say. So the interest rate being low, and you're like, oh great, at 2.5% interest rate, I can, my monthly payment's going to be $1,500 a month. Hell yeah. So the difference is, okay, they have whatever the remainder of their loan is that you would be taking over. And for the assumable loans, it's the FHA, the VA, and the USDA loans. Conventional loans are not assumable. So that you have that option, you just have to pay, as the buyer, you have to pay the difference in equity. So if they've got, say, $300,000 or $330,000 left on that loan, well, I guess if they paid $350,000 for it, the loan would be less. But let's just, okay, so $350K, let's say they owe $350K on the house, and you're coming in and buying it for $450K. Well, you have a $100,000 difference between the loan and what they're selling it for. That's your down payment, essentially. That's what you would need to bring in cash difference and then take over the loan. So if you have that amount, great. Otherwise, you may have the option to finance that difference, some or all of that difference, and then your monthly payment's going to be more, of course, for that. But it's still going to be way cheaper than if you just bought a new house straight with a 7% interest rate. Otherwise, objectively, yes, the housing market is slow, in comparison. We have so many homes for sale, but then we've got half that number or less in the number of available home buyers. And then what have home prices been doing like year over year? It depends on the neighborhood, but overall, in Colorado Springs, year over year, home prices are up like a little over 2%. And again, it depends on the neighborhood, because there are pockets, little neighborhoods, where the average value has actually gone down a little bit. For whatever reason, people are just not as interested in that particular part of town, that particular neighborhood. And people do seem a little bit surprised when they're like, how long has it taken homes to sell? And I'm like, 2 weeks. And they're like, what? This was a buyer's market. So I have to clarify, like, okay, the move-in ready homes do that. Like, there's no deferred maintenance. You're like, the only thing you can nitpick about is some like minor thing, and it's like, it's all done. I don't have to like redo carpet before I move in. I can just move in. And that's so appealing right now. And again, because buyers have a bit more advantage right now, because everybody's scared of the everybody's scared of what is going on with our government. And that'll, even if you're just like, even if you take out, how does this affect me personally in my personal life, and moral values and all that, take all that out, you still have to consider the objective implications and possibilities of what if the economic changes of this administration, all other changes, what if this tanks the housing market? What if I just wait a year to buy, and then stuff, hits the fan and home prices drop by 100K? I'm gonna be really upset if I buy a house now and then that happens. On the flip side, you're gonna be upset if you don't buy the house now and then next year it's 50K more, that's not likely to happen. It would likely be 2-ish% more. And I just saw an article this morning that was talking about nationally housing markets. They're expecting prices to just kind of flatline for the rest of the year. They're not expecting more growth. As an example of properties, just some of them not selling, some neighborhoods not selling, I've got a client who's trying to sell her property up in Loveland and then buy something down here. And great, she can find something down here, but that's not the issue. The issue is getting her property sold before purchasing the next one. And it doesn't, like, I have looked into this, like, it's not in my market, and I've looked into it for her and talked to other agents selling property or who have recently sold property in that neighborhood. It's a great house, it's great shape, it's move-in ready, and it's currently listed at like 25 grand under what I think it should realistically sell for, even in this market. Doesn't matter. And the agent's at a loss. Anybody that's got stuff listed there is at a loss. There's factors of like, maybe it's this, and that. But I think it's really just that neighborhood, its specific features, that HOA. And people don't, particularly care for HOAs. But on the flip side, you got a lot of new build neighborhoods that do have the HOA, and they're usually minimal, but the incentives, that low interest rate for those new construction homes, is just too good to pass up. I got 2 clients that one's under contract, one's going under contract soon on new construction here. Because, like, how do you beat like a 1.99 interest rate? And like, yeah, it's not that for the whole 30 years. Like, it goes up to 4.99 or something after the first few years, and then that's the rate for the rest of the term. But like, even still, like, that's a great rate, and you get brand new house, and it's just up to you on like, okay, is the new construction as good a quality as something built years ago? Okay, the wood in the 70s was solid. We don't have that kind of wood anymore, but at the same time, we have better code, we have newer appliances, newer stuff that works better, a lot of it. And so the rest of it comes down to making sure that when the subcontractors are building the house, that they're not doing a F it Friday, they're not skimping out or using crap material. And so you ideally want to have a home inspector go through the house through several stages of the build, your own home inspector. I mean, yes, the builder will have a home inspector look at stuff, but it's still a great idea to have your own go and look at that stuff, because they find stuff all the time. You see the videos on TikTok and all online where it's a home inspector's account, and his whole job, the reason he makes videos, is to show you what's wrong with this new construction house. And I don't mean to make this sound like an advertisement for new construction homes. It's just the interest rate's good, and that's where a lot of people who are buying houses now are going. And back to that, house that's not selling up in Loveland, like, they are competing with new construction up there. Again, great incentives. Like, that is tough to beat. So when it comes to nationally, yes, there's the people who think that home prices are going to drop. Everybody thinks that every year. Doesn't mean anything without evidence. So show the evidence. Like, comment below, talk about why you think the housing market's going to fail. Like, I'm open to hearing it. Or you might think that our country will stabilize politically and that everything will turn out all right, in which case, yeah, probably buy the house now. Or you could think that there is nothing wrong politically, in which case, buy the house now. And all that means is just long-term home values appreciate, especially in Colorado Springs. So the best time to buy the house is yesterday, second time, best time is now. And that's the state of the Colorado Springs housing market in 2025. It's much like it is every year. I just make minor changes per time period. As of like now, we're kind of in between a buyer and seller's market, but leaning toward buyers. But even still, like, the home prices still have been eking up. And who's to say what they're going to do for the rest of the year? Like, do we continue to see appreciation, or do we flatline for the rest of the year? Because if the nation flatlines, Colorado Springs housing market typically does better, performs better than most of the rest of the nation. So do we continue maybe seeing appreciation? I didn't bring my crystal ball. I don't know. I can't tell you what if. This is a bunch of what if. A bunch of trying to prep for the future and really not having enough answers to be able to do that effectively. So all I can tell you is, historically, home prices have gone up here. If you are wanting to buy a place and you don't foresee yourself leaving the country, then yeah, maybe this is the time to buy. Or, if you are potentially, at some point maybe leave the country, rent this, you buy the house and then rent it out later. Use a property manager that's recommended by the real estate agent that you trust, and that could work out too. Bottom line summary, the housing market in Colorado Springs in 2025 is slow, especially in comparison to what it was in 2020 to 2022. Or even like once we hit 2016, that's when the market here started to get hot. But again, 2020 to 2022 was crazy. During COVID, it was slow. Trying to figure out the mask mandates. Yeah, the stuff it did shut down for a couple of weeks, and then we had to go through that. So that was a slower period, yes. But once everybody kind of got used to how the new life living with COVID was going to be, it came back. The Colorado Springs housing market in 2025 is moving. There are an increasing number of homes coming on the market for sale, but I don't think the number of buyers is necessarily increasing at this point, and probably not for the rest of the year. So I do anticipate there is going to be a growing gap in between what is available for sale and who is available to buy it. So that does bode well for if you're buying, and again, September, October timeframe, I am expecting probably the height of what we would have for sale, and then a lot of that just sitting on market through the rest of the fall and winter, potentially a lot of that. Stuff will still move, stuff will still sell, but you're not going to get top dollar for it. You're probably going to have to do some price drops if you didn't price it great to begin with, and you're probably going to have some concessions. So that price that you go under contract for, you're probably going to have during the home inspection, your buyer's going to say, hey, these deferred maintenance item things I'm going to need fixed. If it's move-in ready, that's a different story, but usually most people have some amount of stuff that needs to be done. Oh, my roof is 10 years old. Yeah, insurance is going to be dodgy on that then. Or the water heater is original, furnace is original. Those kind of things may come up more now for negotiation, for the buyer to say, well, I'm not going to take it like that. And you may be in that kind of a situation where the price you go under contract with, you may sell it for still less than that. That is the market. So I try to prep clients and people wanting to sell their house for that expectation of like, yeah, I would love to get you the highest price. That's my job, is to represent you in your best interests, get you the highest price, the most for your money, while doing the least amount of stuff on the house. Like, yeah, of course. But I do have to temper that and tell them this is how the market is, and this is what you're likely going to get. And if another agent tells you they can get you more, maybe they can, but you need to scrutinize that. They need to be showing you the sold comparables that justify that and why your house is so similar to those. Because if they can't, like, I'm not going to over promise and under deliver and be like, oh, I'll just take the listing, put it on market, and then, just it is what it is. You got to work. Like in a seller's market, yeah, you could even sell the house by yourself, put it on market, you get offers. Doesn't mean you know what to do with it after that, but you still could do that. In this market, you can't do that now. You have to work. You have to reverse prospect. You have to advertise. You have to market. If you're a good real estate agent, that's what you have to do in this market. So being that, that's more that's the kind of stuff we do in a buyer's market. So that's Colorado Springs housing market 2025. If you are thinking about buying or selling your house here in Colorado Springs, let me know. If you don't have an agent, I would love the opportunity to meet with you, talk about what your needs are and how I can help you best accomplish those with my experience. My name is Kevin James Bond with Remax Real Estate Group, 9-year real estate agent here in Colorado Springs. Reach out to me if you have questions or you're interested in what your home's value is.